There are so many uses for AI, whether that's in your business or in your podcast. Today, we have Ken coming on to talk about his company, Inlink, which allows you to have an AI employee. This concept is very interesting. And I know that we talk specifically around the beginning about businesses and more storefront businesses, but hold tight. If you are not a storefront business, we do give strategies for those of you who might be in coaching or have a more digital side of your company. We also talk about podcasting specifically and how you can use the software to not just get guests in and manage guests, but also manage sponsorships. So, looking at those sponsorships, driving traffic to these places, and then having someone regularly check up on these potential sponsors. All right, please join me in welcoming Ken to the podcast. Welcome to Podcasting Unlocked, the show for purpose-driven podcasters. I'm Alicia Galati, founder of Galati Media, and I'm here to share actionable strategies to help you amplify your message and grow your audience. Hello, Ken. I am so excited to have you on the podcast. If you could start by telling everyone a bit about you, what you do, and your podcast.
Thank you for having me, Alicia. I appreciate it. What do I do? I've begrudgingly taken on the title of entrepreneur. I've always been a business owner, operator, never really thought of myself as an entrepreneur because I just did the work that I needed to do to survive, right? And I'm not really the rule follower kind of guy, right? So having a boss never really appealed to me. So entrepreneur is my current title. What does that mean for me is Monday through Friday, I operate data centers. I'm the president of a company called River City Internet Group. Our two flagship companies underneath River City Internet Group are Ethereum, which is our hosting company, the data center operation, and Inlink, which is our software, small business, web hosting, funnels, AI employees, and those kinds of things, right? So very robust, really cater to the small and medium-sized business, Main Street America, which is what I'm really super passionate about. I'm also an author. I've written a couple books, and as of January, I'm an international bestseller in the United States on Amazon and in the UK. So I'm super excited about that. That's been a long road. And me and my wife and I own a boxing school that she operates. And I go there at nighttime and hang out with them. And nights and weekends, that's where I'm at. Outside of that, and then we also have the podcast, Clicks and Bricks podcast, which is currently on hiatus. I took a break last January. I had to leave town for a little bit because I was on a reality TV show called The Blocks with Wes Bergman, which was a whole lot of fun. I'm on season 12 if anybody wants to check that out.
Wow, you have such a busy life. When do you rest? Is my first question.
Yeah, I've got a lot of neurological disorders, so rest is a challenge for me. My household, we settle down around between midnight and 2 a.m. and we're up and kicking at 7:30 and 8. So that's our day, and we're pretty active we wake up and we all get going we're all out of the house by 8:30, and we all get back to the house around 9:30, 10 o'clock. We hang out for a couple hours and go to bed. So it works really well. People that only have one job, I wonder what they do from 5 to midnight. I'm like, what could you possibly be doing? Because I can't figure it out. I have to be moving. I have to be busy.
Yeah, makes sense though. More power to you. And I love that you called yourself begrudging entrepreneur because I feel that on the a little different in that I never wanted to run my own business. I always just wanted to do the side hustle stuff, but still have my corporate career. I'm an Enneagram 1, so I am the rule follower. So I'm perfectly happy working for someone else. But then COVID happened and here I am. I think a lot of people have redefined what they are and how they approach work since then.
Yeah. And I think we're in just such an amazing, cool time in the world, and specifically in America. Like the resources that we have available to us is just so profound. And I really look at a future that is just so amazing for people that want to change their position in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are so many opportunities. Like even thinking back to 10 years ago, right? When I first started dabbling in the side hustle, there were not the easier resources that there are today. Definitely wasn't at least a robust AI as we have today. Yes, there were versions of it, but not anything like we have today. So let's go ahead and jump right in talking about AI. Little
Okay.
segue there. Tell me a bit about InLink, what it does, and how thinking about our audience specifically as podcasters, how hosts, we'll start with hosts, can use it.
Yeah. So for podcast hosts, I think that the thing that I'm looking at the most right now is, and then having the conversation with people, the term AI agents is pretty popular, right? And it's generic. And I guess I had an epiphany. I've been working with AI for a long time, and I've been working with computers and technology for a longer time. I have a lot of learning disabilities, and I started leaning on technology in 1980 to help me communicate with the world, right? So I've had a keyboard sitting in front of me. I'll be 50 this year, and I've had a keyboard in front of me since I was 5. And that's kind of been my entire world. For podcasters, Inlink can be the answering service, the text messaging service. So all of those tasks that are, I like to use it for inbound. I tell people right now, let's start using AI for your inbound and let's start treating them like employees. So the term agent, I was looking at it and I couldn't really nail it down what it was. And I started talking with people and I started talking with business owners and I'm like, well, this can replace your employee. I'm like, oh, this is just an AI employee. And then we started learning about them that way and started teaching them that way as employees. So a lot of people have had businesses and we've all made mistakes. A mistake that I see happen all the time in businesses of all sizes, they bring on a new hire, like a front desk person, and they say, here's your job. And they point them to the job. And then they don't train them on everything. And there's an extra 10 or 15 tasks that they pick up and they learn on their own that don't get documented very well. The employee makes some mistakes here and there, always emotional when you're talking with the employee and rectifying those mistakes. But you don't expect the employee to be able to do every job. And for some reason, we think that the computer or AI should be able to just do every job because it is so smart. But that's where you start getting the hieroglyphics and the hallucinations from AI because you overtrain it on everything about your business. So if we start looking at them oh, here's a voice AI agent, and that can be an executive's assistant, like receptionist. It's going to answer the phone, send calendar links to the person on the phone, send scheduling links and stuff like that to them, to the front desk receptionist. It's going to send schedules for the whole company, those kinds of things. Take that over to, I need an AI employee that's going to just answer my Google reviews, not Facebook reviews, just my Google reviews. I'll have a different one that's going to do my Facebook reviews. So I can train those employees on their specific tasks, right?
Mm.
And then manage those because you wouldn't hire an employee and not manage that employee. That's absurd, right? Nobody expects
Yeah.
that. And you're not going to be able to train these AIs for every possible aspect on day one. So changing the mind frame of, oh, AIs can do everything to, oh, we'll train them for very specific tasks, deploy them, create guardrails to keep them in their bucket, close the loop quickly so that they can get to people as soon as if the user gets frustrated, get them to a real person, and always be wildly transparent. Let the user know, hey, you're dealing with an AI agent or an AI employee at this time. And I can do a lot of stuff. I can't do everything, but a good 80 to 90% of most of the companies, it can handle that workload.
Yeah, so you're talking about some pretty front-facing positions. How have the potential clients and clients responded to that?
Yeah, so it's challenging, right? It's new, they're scared, they're frightened. And that's why at Inlink, we started on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. We're just having a rolling training session, right? It's free. Anybody can come in. If you go to inlink.com, it's the very first button to register for that workshop. And we're doing it every Tuesday at 4. So we can show you how easy this is, right? Historically, it's been you had to hire a team to do it. And I really think that this is part of your marketing, it's part of your strategy in your business, that the business needs to own this piece. And we're here to help them do that with the webinars. We have 24-hour support that they can go in and help and do stuff. But I don't think that it's fair for a business, a local gym or a local transmission shop, to have to call somebody and say, hey, my employee said this, how do we get it to stop? When it can just literally be going in saying, hey, that's not our price for this transmission. This is our price, right? And it's really, really simple to do now. And we can track it. And the interface is just so nice to track those things. It collects all the user information. We can send you an email on every single conversation. And we're always here to help if you need us. But I think it's important to take away the bottleneck of I'm running a business and I need to make a change to this receptionist that's answering my phone. I need to make a quick change. I think that bottleneck needs to be removed and empower the end user to be able to do those things
Hmm.
and be there to help them if they're struggling to figure it out.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I don't know if you've seen, but at the end of last year, and maybe it was the beginning of this year, so I'm an avid reader. If anyone has seen my bookshelves, you all know from the videos on YouTube. I'm an avid reader, and there is a app, we will not name the app, but they give a report at the end of the year of here's your archetype, your reader archetype. And some of the biases that were in there were not great based on the collective, right, of what people tend to read. And if you look at the publishing industry, just statistically, the big five publishers, a lot of them tend to be white authors and mostly straight authors and straight stories. And so in this case, it was people who were reading diversely, where it was like, hey, you should start reading more white cishet male authors. And the person was like, what? I'm a black woman who wants to read these stories. What is happening to your AI? And so people were really concerned. A lot of people canceled their subscriptions and all of that stuff. So you mentioned guardrails, and that was the problem in this case, is that there were not protective guardrails for the end user. What are some guardrails that people might want to consider as they're maybe building something out like this?
Yeah. So I was working on an AI for a local gym, voice answering, and we were demoing it and we had the speakerphone on. And it was really quite humorous because the AI picked up a background conversation because we had the speakerphone. There was a couple off to the side in this gym that was talking about their relationship and how it was really funny because she had just said Jason was going to cybersecurity school. And the AI picked up on that and said, oh, it sounds like you're talking about going to cyber. And this is a gym, right? Totally off topic. So that particular instance said, okay, and we had this in place anyway. We hadn't implemented it for the gym yet, but it told me, oh, we have to implement this immediately for every single deployment is if the topic gets off the base. So you are a gym AI, you're a receptionist at a local gym. If it goes off of that particular topic, accept some variance and always bring the conversation back to X, Y, or Z, right? So bring that conversation back to there. You can acknowledge that it happened. Don't just like freak out. Acknowledge, oh yeah, that's really not what I'm trained to do. I'm here. And then just loop that to come back to the conversation that's at hand. I wasn't expecting that to happen at all. And it was kind of fun that it did because it was nice to see that in real time happen. And then, oh, the AIs now think we're talking about cybersecurity, which was not even close. But I think it's important to have the AI have a little bit of variance and bring it back to the core topic. And programming AI is not like programming anything else we've ever programmed ever. It's plain text programming, right? So literally the language to, if the topic strays too far away from gym services, accept it and bring the conversation back to gym services, period. And that's the program. That's the line of code that you put in there. So this isn't a situation that a front desk person today that you really like, but doesn't answer the phone, or the chiropractor that has to stop with his patient, run over and get the phone, the mechanic that has to stop and run over and get the phone or answer text messages while they're working. All of that stuff can go away for you. And you can manage this AI employee, all of them with just plain text language.
Yeah, which is very helpful. I know multiple times I've had to be like, let's bring it back to Gemini, right? Like you're veering off topic. That's not really what we're talking about anymore.
Right.
Bring it back to the topic at hand. This is it. So I can definitely understand that. You mentioned code. How beginner friendly is this for people?
So I will tell you that, and we're here to help with this piece. Getting the phone number is super easy. Getting it verified to send and receive text messages takes a couple days, a little bit cumbersome. We're here to walk you through all of that. Literally, once you're that and you assign an AI agent to it, as a basic receptionist that knows nothing about your company, but is just polite and kind, it's literally just clicking the button and you've got an AI voice agent that'll answer that phone have a conversation with the end user, collect all that end user's information, and send you a message to contact them back with the recording of that call. That's like literally, once the phone number is purchased and verified for text messaging, really easy. Then to program it to say, what is your schedule? Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 is super easy. You just literally say, when they ask for the schedule, reply with Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Or you can say, here's our booking link. Would you like me to text that to you?
Mm,
Right. And then you have it send a text message right to them if they agree. And the
right.
line of code for that is, when somebody asks for your calendar or your schedule, ask them if you can send them the link via text. If they agree, send it. If they don't agree, don't send it. And then navigate them to a URL on the website. I think the most challenging thing for people to wrap their head around is going to be is phonetically typing it out. So domain names, for example, right? www should have a space between each one of them, or it goes whoa, whoa, whoa. Period should be spelled out DOT with a space. Stuff like cities like St. Louis, we do STL. There's a lot of STL. So S space, period space, or T space, L space kind of thing. So understanding when that's there and then playing with it to get the best output, I think is really at this now the most challenging part.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We don't want it to say that.
We want to say www dot.
Yeah.
So there's just things like that. And there are some advanced programming stuff that you can do. We've got a prompt guide right there for you. And whenever you first do it, the prompts are there for it to work as just a general receptionist that doesn't know much about your company.
Mhm.
But you can put your prices in if you want to know your prices. You can put your schedule. You can text any link that you want. And you can even, if you use us to do your contracts, you can either even collect data, auto-populate a contract, and send them a contract via email. That's a
Mm.
more challenging workflow, but totally possible.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
I say more challenging workflow, I mean, we're talking about a 10 or 15-minute setup. That's not really challenging.
Yeah, I'm thinking even, like, my kids go to MMA, and so their contracts are pretty standard, right? Like, you wouldn't need a lot of customization or, "Oh, you want this service versus this service, I gotta switch some things out." Like, very straightforward, "Here's the contract, go ahead and sign it," or, "Here's the release form," right? Things like that. I'm thinking even, like, those would be so easy to replicate very easily. Now, before we got on, you mentioned how you have two specific things for podcasters within this software that are really beneficial. And so let's go ahead and talk through. You mentioned the first one being guest management, I believe.
Guest booking.
Guest booking, yes.
Funnel. Yeah.
And so, what does that kind of look like for someone who's wanting to use this for their business, but also for their podcast as well?
Yeah. I've got a podcast, and in the very beginning, it was challenging to get two things, right? It's always challenging to get funding, right? For your podcast. That's always a challenge. And then the other one was guests. And I had to really find my secret sauce to get guests booked, right? And I did. And it was wonderful. So at the core, Inlink is a CRM, client management system. That's its core. And the AI employees are a new functionality inside that core, but it has all the functionality that you need to run your business. It's got pipeline management, contract management, all of those things. And we have a podcast snapshot that we can install into that CRM, which comes with a whole lot of stuff. It comes with, a basic website landing page template and a light and a dark theme that you can transition back and forth if you want to use it, or you can use your own creative to build it. But we've got this snapshot there for you with the templated website. And it's got two funnels, guest acquisition and sponsorship acquisition. So with the sponsorship acquisition and both of them, it's a landing page that they can fill out their information. You're still responsible to send traffic to those two locations, but that process is done with a follow-up sequence already built in for you. So if you get somebody a lead for sponsorship, the system's already set up to keep following up with that person until they've either bought or told you they're not going to buy. One of the
Mhm.
two, right? And the same thing for the guest acquisition. What's really cool and we're playing with right now is on the outbound messages, say I'm searching for podcasters that like that magic 100 number, get your magic 100 people that you really want to be on your podcast, put those in there. It'll send them an email and you can configure it to, if they don't open it, send them another email tomorrow with a different subject. And the
Mhm.
AI will change the subject lines and keep pushing that outreach out. And it's really pretty phenomenal stuff. And there's follow up is key for
Yes.
any business. And it's so often something that we forget to do because we're working on the deal that we just closed. We're working on trying to figure out how to get new leads. So old leads kind of fall to the wayside. So we wanted to make sure that we had that follow up process built in on both of those things. And we were building that snapshot. I was like, oh, there's really both components. Both funnels need to be complete. Talent acquisition and sponsorship acquisition are the lifeblood of any podcast after the talent of
Right.
the person doing the show. And that's available. It's the core CRM is $97 a month, and you get any snapshot that you want that we have available. I think we have over 67 industries total of different snapshots that we can put into our CRM.
Wow, that's really cool. I'm thinking even so to give people an example of the kind of podcast this would work really well for, there's a podcast, I want to say it's called Fated Mates. It's a bookish podcast because books. And I can always relate it back to that in some way. And so they actually have authors sponsor episodes. So not like seasons or things like that, but sponsor episodes about a specific book. And so they're going to need some type of intake form where one, they can send people to of like, hey, we have sponsorships available for the next 3 months. If you're an author who wants us to read about your book, read an ad for your book, then send it over to this link and then have all that information that they could possibly need. You're going to need the cover art. You're going to need the description. You're going to need where it's available, maybe some tropes that are in the book. You need all those elements. And then having maybe in this specific podcast, they read the ads. And so then that takes a lot of that initial work off of them of having to research the book for themselves, getting all that information and moving it forward. And also having a pipeline, right? That
Yeah.
maybe they can have of, oh, I want you to reach out to these 20 authors that we really like to see if they'd be open to doing this. You can manage it on both ends with people coming in as well as pitching people to be sponsors.
Yeah, I think that most people get overwhelmed with the sheer amount of stuff that they need to do. So we really wanted to create something that, okay, here's all the pieces to the puzzle. The puzzle's built. You can use the puzzle because we put all the variables in, like business name, address, all that stuff, and it will work. We encourage you to go through all of the steps and really fine tune it for you, but it'll work out of the box the way it is in a lot of cases. And you probably won't turn on all the workflows that we have when you first enable it. The workflows are turned off, but you get, whenever you come on as a client, you get a 1 hour onboarding call right out of the gate. You schedule that at some time. We recommend the first week from purchase so that you can get really started.
Yep.
And then within the next 30 days, you get a 1 hour strategy call. So how are things going? You've always got support in chat. You can call us anytime for a question, but we dedicate a second hour to say, how are things going? What are your gaps? What do we need to fill? What do you need help with? And then there's other options from there. But most business owners will have somebody in their company that can really take this and bring their whole business to the next level, freeing up resources that are being fractionalized from their actual duties to do these tasks.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have the staffing that we had 6 years ago in businesses, right? 5, 6 years ago, staffing was way different than it is now. So people are doing these double duties, and the technology is there that it can handle that 80% of the front side, quick questions. If it is objective workloads, AI's got it, and you can train it to be very objective workload. Subjective workloads, you never know what you're going to get. Just like any other human or any other intelligence on the planet, if the workload's subjective, it's going to guess.
Yeah. Is there anything else that podcasters, business owners would need to know about this software to be able to implement it properly?
I don't think there's a proper anymore. I think that it's so cool of a place to live that the uniqueness is going to be the winner. We've lived a world for the last 20 years, I'd say the last 10 years, that it's winner take most. The internet started, it was free reign for everybody. Everybody had their fastest shoes on. They were running it the best they could. But over time, things went to Amazon and Google and Microsoft and Azure, all of those things. And it ends up being a winner take most game.
Mm.
Small business, Main Street America, it's acquisitions and consolidation. They take 10 local electricians and they roll them up. And now they're part of Schneider Electric or, one of these MGE giant firms.
Yeah.
I think we're in a transition back to individual empowerment, individual owners, owner operated businesses. The technology has gotten there to where the local electrician can compete with the biggest companies in the world. The tech's there. It's no longer isolated to just them. We do like 2-year follow-ups on all of our snapshots of follow-up before we exhaust that on our nurture campaigns. So that's all done we've been doing this for 20 something years. So uh, it's been a long time. And then we've got to take everything that we've known and jam it into these new AI features, which is it's going to save a lot of companies.
Yeah. Well, here's
For
to that.
authors, one that I'm working on now, and I'm kind of feeling foolish that it took me this long to do it, is I'm working on my own voice AI for myself. So I'm going to stop answering my own phone calls because I get so much spam and I feel obligated to answer the call. But even for myself, I'm working on one that's going to have my calendar. You want to talk about my book? You want to talk about the hosting? You want to talk, what are the things that you want to direct so that I can direct you to those different things? Because that's 80% of my phone calls on my cell phone today is that. And I think as long as you are acknowledging to close the loop quickly is what we call it. If
Yeah.
they ask to talk to a real person, don't argue, take the message or transfer them, depending on what your workflow is. And I think those are the keys. Be transparent and close the loop quickly. And create guardrails. So it
Yes.
doesn't, unless you don't want to. If you want it to be willy-nilly, let it be willy-nilly.
I'm thinking too, like we have a client where she has her podcast episodes categorized, right? And she's got 300 episodes. And so she's like, oh, you're struggling with, so in this case, she's a boundaries coach. So she might say, you're struggling with boundaries. You're struggling with habits. You're struggling with having hard conversations. And like creating something like this where someone calls her, maybe from her Google number, and she's able to say, what are you struggling with? Would you like us to send you a free resource based on this? And knowing that here's the resource that can be sent that then can nurture that person, follow up with that person that could eventually lead to potentially coaching. Right. So even thinking, yes, the electrician and the gym and the MMA people, they could use these things, but
Yeah.
just a simple person who does habits coaching could use it as well in a really strategic way.
Yeah. So, and if you buy our CRM core, you can put on the AI employees. You pay to play, right? It's per transaction, all that kind of stuff. But for $500 a month, we do unlimited AI employees. You still got to pay for your text messaging and your phone number, but the AI employees, you can have as many as you want. If you do our Tuesday webinar, you get a 50% coupon at the end. So it's only $250 a month, which is a huge savings. And you can do unlimited AI employees, right? So think of the context of what you were just talking about, where you had these different silos. You would train those voice AIs in those different silos. So if you had a life coach for breathing, you might create another AI agent or employee that is all about breath work, right? And it knows all your breathwork stuff. So your receptionist AI can transfer to that number. And then that AI knows all about that. So it can stay in those boundaries much better. That's why I thought it was so important to be able to do unlimited AI employees, because when you start thinking about these intricacies in your business and you want them to be experts on those things, well, they can't be generalists and experts. You
Right.
can, but that's where hallucinations really start to come into play.
Yep.
So when I started talking about AI in that way with people and it started to resonate, oh, well, that makes sense. And then, oh, I need to train each one of them like they're an employee. And then each one can have their own KPIs, key performance indicators. And I have to remediate issues with each one of my employees when they come up. That's a manager's job. So now I'm hoping that the owner doesn't say, oh, I can just fire my whole front desk staff and do this, but they use it to empower their front desk staff so that the front desk staff can do more stuff, taking pictures with guests, doing better customer service. They can replace the inbound stuff. Now that front desk person can do outbound reach. Hey, how was your appointment last week? And then really start driving home what businesses and Main Street businesses need to be doing.
Yeah, that is so cool. This has been so fun, Ken. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. You really got my brain going of like ways to be more strategic with this and ways that it could be implemented. So, thank you so much. And I hope that everyone got some value from this episode and some ideas on how maybe even if they don't join InLink, that they've got some ideas on I maybe need to set up some automations and workflows on my end to make my life easier. So thank you so much. Where can people find you, get to know you, hang out with you, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, if you want to know more about Inlink, it's just inlink.com as INLINK. If you want to know more about me, it's kencox.com. On there, I've got my books and just goofiness about myself and my own kind of writing style. Some of my blog posts are interesting. I like quantum world and spirituality. I think it's always something interesting to read there.
Nice. Awesome. And we'll have those linked in the show notes in the description for anyone who's doing other things while they're listening or watching. Again, thank you so much, Ken.
Thank you, Alicia.